The lantern flickered weakly in the corner of the room as Emily Winters wrapped her shawl tighter around her shoulders. She had grown used to silence, so much that it felt louder than any gunshot. Since her husband died, she hardly spoke to anyone except the cold wind and the memories that refused to leave. Tonight felt heavier than grief. Every creak in the wooden floor sounded like footsteps. Every shadow seemed to breathe. And then came the knock. Not gentle, not violent, just certain. Her heart froze. She whispered to herself, "Not him, please, not tonight." Cole Maddox, known across 3 towns as the Dead-Eye Cowboy. People said he never missed a shot and never stayed in one place long enough to bury his sins. But Emily knew something they didn't. 2 months before her husband died, Cole had risked his life to save her son from drowning in the river. Since then, he had watched over her from afar like a ghost protecting a grave. Now he stood on her doorstep, rain dripping from his hat, eyes dark with something colder than night itself. She knew danger when she saw it, and yet, she also saw loneliness. She did not open the door at first. Her fingers hovered over the latch, trembling. Memories of loss and betrayal flooded back like a violent storm. "Please, don't come inside," she whispered to the empty air, though she knew he was listening. Her voice carried fear and defiance in equal measure. Cole's hand rested lightly against the wood, not pushing, not forcing, only waiting. There was a hunger in his eyes, not just for her trust, but for something deeper, something he couldn't name even to himself. After a long moment, she cracked the door open, just enough to see his face. Water streaked down his cheekbones, mingling with dirt and sweat. "Emily," he said, voice rough and low, "I'm not here to harm you. I'm here because you deserve to know the truth, because I can't live another day without trying to make things right." Her breath caught. The words felt like fire and ice at the same time, stirring hope she had buried with her husband's coffin. She hesitated. "If you step inside," she warned, "you may never leave." Cole's jaw tightened. He wasn't deterred. "I'll take that risk," he said. "I've never wanted anyone like I want you. I've made mistakes, grave ones. But I'm done running, done hiding. You're worth the storm, Emily." Her knees almost gave way beneath her. The man who everyone feared like a shadow was here, vulnerable, pleading, exposing a heart she thought only grief had claimed. Something deep inside her began to stir, a dangerous, fragile longing she had sworn to resist. The rain outside fell harder, drumming against the tin roof like a heartbeat in rhythm with her own. Cole stepped closer, careful, respectful, giving her space, yet his presence filled the cabin with heat she couldn't ignore. Emily felt torn between fear and desire. Memories of loneliness clawed at her resolve. The widow who had promised herself to remain untouched and protected suddenly realized she hadn't lived in months. The danger of him, the temptation, the yearning, it was all overwhelming. I can't," she whispered, but her voice trembled with unspoken admission. Cole tilted his head, studying her with a mixture of patience and intensity. "You can't what?" he asked softly, moving just a step closer, close enough for her to feel the heat radiating from his body. "You can't fight what you feel, because it's real," he said. His words cut through the walls she had built around herself. For the first time, she didn't retreat. She stood still, feeling the truth in his voice, feeling that maybe letting someone in didn't have to mean giving up everything she had left. A sudden crash of thunder shook the cabin. Emily jumped, her body tense. Cole reached out instinctively, brushing her shoulder with the back of his hand, grounding her. "I'll protect you," he said, not just as a promise but as a declaration. "Whatever comes, whatever storms, I'll face it for you. No one else has to get close. Only me." Her heart thumped so hard she feared it would betray her entirely. She closed her eyes for a second, letting the moment consume her. Could she trust him with her shattered heart? She glanced at the old photograph on the mantel, the one of her husband smiling, holding her son in his arms. The image made her chest ache with nostalgia and pain. Yet, when she looked back at Cole, she didn't see danger. She saw someone willing to fight for her, someone who carried his own scars but still wanted to bring her warmth. Slowly, she exhaled, letting a small measure of hope seep through. Maybe it's not too late," she said quietly, almost to herself. Cole's lips curved into a rare, soft smile. He had been feared, hunted, and misunderstood, but here, in this small cabin, he was just a man who had found his reason to stop running. Emily stepped back, allowing him in, closing the door against the storm. The air between them was electric, heavy with anticipation. They were two wounded souls, drawn together by fate and danger, ready to collide in ways neither could have predicted. The night deepened outside, but inside the cabin, firelight danced on the walls. Cole pulled off his soaked hat, letting it fall with a soft thud. "Sit," he said, motioning to the chair by the hearth. "I have a story you need to hear, and you deserve the truth." Emily sank into the chair, heart hammering. For hours, they spoke of pain, loss, and regrets that had haunted them both. Every confession, every tear, every hesitant smile built a fragile bridge between two souls that should have remained worlds apart. Suddenly, the sound of hoofbeats pounded from outside, urgent and chaotic. Cole's eyes snapped to the window, hand resting on the pistol at his hip. Emily's heart lurched. Who is it?" she asked, voice tight. Cole didn't answer immediately. His gaze was sharp, calculating. "Trouble," he murmured, "but we'll face it together." The promise in his words ignited a spark in her, a courage she thought she had lost. Danger was near, but the fear that had haunted her for years began to give way to something entirely new: trust. Cole moved to the door, peeking out into the storm. The riders outside were shadows, indistinct and menacing. Emily's grip on the shawl tightened. Cole's hand found hers, brief but grounding. "You're not alone anymore," he whispered. In that instant, all her doubts, all her grief, all her promises of isolation seemed to dissolve. She felt the pull of something undeniable, a connection born of survival, respect, and desire. Even in the face of threat, her heart dared to hope. Hours passed like moments. The storm raged, but the cabin felt like a fortress. Cole kept vigil by the window, Emily beside him, each word and glance a silent acknowledgement that neither would ever be the same. The night tested them, every shadow, every distant shout, but they endured together. Each heartbeat, each small smile, each whispered word of courage strengthened the bond forming between them. By the time dawn crept through the cracks in the walls, both knew the world outside was dangerous, but inside they had found something worth holding. As first light broke over the horizon, Cole and Emily stepped outside together. The storm had passed, leaving mud and debris, but also a glimmer of clarity. He looked down at her, eyes softening. "This is only the beginning," he said. Emily met his gaze, heart steady for the first time in years. "Then let it be," she replied. Together, they faced the prairie, not as a widow and a feared cowboy, but as two souls who had finally found a reason to fight, for each other, and for the love they had both thought impossible. The morning sun revealed a battered landscape, the aftermath of the storm. Mud and debris covered the prairie, but Cole and Emily's cabin stood firm, a small fortress against chaos. Yet the danger outside was far from gone. From the ridge, Emily spotted a group of men approaching, their intent unmistakable. Fear gripped her chest, but when she looked at Cole, she saw unwavering resolve. He had faced death countless times, and today, he would not fail, not her, not them. Their hands met instinctively, a silent pact of survival. Cole moved swiftly, eyes scanning the horizon, every muscle coiled like a spring. "They won't leave us be," he muttered, voice low but firm. Emily felt a pang of fear, yet she didn't shrink back. This time, she wasn't alone. She reached for a lantern, lighting the windows to appear occupied and ready. Every instinct in her screamed danger, but every beat of her heart screamed hope. Together, they prepared to defend what they had found, the fragile trust and budding love between them. The men arrived faster than expected, kicking up clouds of dust as they rode. Emily's pulse raced, but Cole's calm presence grounded her. "Stay close," he commanded softly. The first rider leapt off his horse, reaching for the door, but Cole was faster, intercepting him with precise, controlled force. Chaos erupted outside, shouts and the sound of gunfire piercing the morning. Emily ducked behind the table, breath shallow, heart pounding. Yet she found courage in Cole's voice, guiding her through the storm of violence. They were a team, fighting side by side. A sudden roar of a horse startled her. One man had tried to flank them, sneaking around the cabin's side. Emily froze, but Cole was there in an instant, tackling the intruder to the ground. They struggled fiercely, mud and rain mixing with blood, but Cole emerged victorious, dragging the man aside. Emily felt a strange mix of fear and admiration. She realized something terrifying and exhilarating at once. She was not just surviving with Cole, she was alive in a way she had never known. The skirmish continued, the attackers relentless, but Cole's skill and Emily's newfound courage turned the tide. One by one, the men faltered, unable to match the determination of the two who refused to be broken. Emily's hands shook, but each act of bravery strengthened her resolve. The widow who had feared loneliness now fought fiercely for the man who had claimed her heart and for the life they could build together. In the chaos, she saw herself not as a victim, but as a force to be reckoned with. Finally, silence fell. The attackers had fled, leaving the cabin and the prairie in a tense calm. Emily sank against the door, breathing heavily, adrenaline still coursing through her veins. Cole knelt beside her, wiping mud from her cheek. "You were incredible," he said, voice steady but full of awe. She laughed, a shaky, joyful sound, realizing that fear had transformed into triumph. For the first time in years, she felt truly alive, feeling the warmth of safety and love entwined in a single moment. Cole pulled her into his arms, holding her as the morning sun bathed them in golden light. "I promised you I'd face every storm for you," he whispered. Emily rested her head on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "And you did," she replied softly. The wind still carried distant echoes of chaos, but inside the cabin, inside their bond, there was peace. They had survived danger, fear, and grief, and emerged stronger, their hearts bound by fire and trust. Over the next few days, life returned slowly to the prairie. The cabin, once a symbol of isolation, became a home filled with laughter, warmth, and small, cherished routines. Cole and Emily worked together, rebuilding fences, tending the land, and sharing quiet evenings by the fire. Each day, their connection deepened, trust blossomed into love, and the past, though never forgotten, became a source of strength rather than sorrow. The widow and the dangerous cowboy had found not just safety, but each other. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Emily sat on the porch, hand in Cole's, watching the sky turn amber and rose. "I never thought I'd feel this way again," she said, voice barely above a whisper. Cole tightened his grip, a small smile playing on his lips. "Neither did I," he admitted. "But some things are worth taking risks for. You are worth every risk I've ever taken." Tears welled in Emily's eyes, not of grief, but of joy and gratitude. For the first time, she felt whole again, her heart no longer guarded by fear. Days turned into weeks, and word of Cole's heroics spread, not the deadly reputation, but the story of the cowboy who fought not for gold, but for love and honor. Emily, once known as the lonely widow, became a symbol of resilience and courage. Together, they transformed the cabin and surrounding land into a thriving homestead, where neighbors felt safe and children laughed freely. Their love became a legend whispered on the wind, a tale of danger, passion, and redemption that inspired those who heard it. As the seasons changed, Emily and Cole faced challenges, but none could shake the bond they had forged in fire and fear. They rode together across the prairie, hunted together, and shared quiet moments under the stars. The widow and the dangerous cowboy had become a team, inseparable, unstoppable. Emily no longer feared solitude, and Cole no longer feared attachment. They had found balance, love, and the courage to face whatever came next, knowing they would do so hand in hand. One crisp morning, Cole surprised Emily with a small bouquet of wildflowers, picked from the fields near the cabin. "For you," he said simply. Emily laughed, tears of happiness spilling down her cheeks. "You always know how to surprise me," she replied, embracing him. In that moment, the prairie seemed endless and full of possibility. Their hearts beat in sync, a rhythm forged from shared struggle and triumph, a testament to the power of trust and the enduring strength of love. Years later, the cabin remained their sanctuary, filled with the laughter of children and the warmth of family. Emily often looked back on that first stormy night, remembering the fear, the longing, and the hesitation. But more than that, she remembered the courage it took to open her door, to take a chance on love again. And as she watched Cole teaching their son to ride, she knew with certainty that her heart had found its home. Even the prairie seemed to acknowledge their bond. Winds whispered through the grass like a lullaby, birds circled overhead, and sunsets painted the skies in brilliant hues. Emily and Cole often stood together on the porch, hand in hand, marveling at the life they had built. The widow who once feared the world outside had become the heart of a thriving, joyful family, and the dangerous cowboy had discovered that love was far more powerful than fear or legend. Their love story became one for the ages, not one without hardship, but one defined by resilience, trust, and the courage to embrace life fully. Emily and Cole had stared danger in the face, fought together, and emerged not only alive but stronger than ever. Their hearts, once scarred, beat as one, a living testament to the power of risk, redemption, and the enduring magic of finding someone worth fighting for. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, each evening, painting the prairie in gold and crimson, Emily would whisper to Cole, "I'm glad you knocked." Cole would smile, pulling her close, replying, "And I'll keep knocking, for every day we have together." In the quiet of the prairie, surrounded by love and life, they had found everything they ever feared lost. Their story, a widow and a dangerous cowboy, ended not in tragedy, but in triumph, heartache transformed into hope, and fear transformed into unbreakable love.